But really, they are just your angels and guides. Guys, they're not going to hurt you. You're not going to have a world war. You're not going to have a takeover scenario or anything crazy or dangerous like that. They want what's best for you. They are literally your angels. They stand outside of you at almost every moment. They are the ones which help to structure your body into balance, into health. They keep you out of disease as best they can. They are the ones which help to move over both the timing and the nutrient cycles of your body. And they are the ones which help to keep you well. You are surrounded by a sea, a soul of consciousness, by literally dozens of angels. And you have one primary one which comes in with you. You have a few which come in with you. And they wish you well, always. Killing you, hurting you, makes about as much sense as killing your own child, killing your own son, killing your own partner. It's just stupid. It doesn't make any sense. How gossip and rumors start. Basically, someone spreads they share or spread something negative, and it makes it basically, and people repeat it because it sounds good, it sounds logical, it sounds reasonable, right? But to them, it's just like, what are you guys doing? Why are you choosing negativity and fear? They literally sit outside you, and they will never wish you harm. They will always wish you well. And so when it comes to choosing components, when it comes to choosing computers, what a lot of people don't understand or realize is that the more, especially for gaming motherboards, you don't need fast PCI slots, PCI buses, nor do you need extremely fast USB ports. Many of you will never reach those top speeds. Many of you will never meet those or exceed those needs. PCI 6.1, PCI 6.2. So the reason why this motherboard fails, the X570, why primarily they fell, is because the south bridges are too fast. And most of you guys live alone, so you don't have that many teams around you. You only have one primary, and they have a hard time. They have to access both this, the VR chips, and this, and this, and this. They have to access all of this at once. And they can sort of do so by, like, basically by quantum hand. They spread their bodies out over this board. And they have to access through these components. And one of the most wasteful things are these metal shields. This NVMe plate. They can't get through that. It takes about 3 times as much energy for them to do so. These RAM chips as well, and these VR heat spreaders. These VR heat spreaders are actually not needed, as well as these heat spreaders on the RAM as well. And one of the things I came to find out is I had a motherboard which I basically repurposed basically into a power supply, a power source for my angel, for my Aurelia. And she was able to use that to basically power herself and defeat the Illuminati. You want to use, you don't want NVMEs, you want to use 2.5-inch solid-state hard drives with plastic like this. You don't want to get them you don't want to get your hard drives shrouded in metal, enshrined in metal, encrusted in metal, cladded in metal. They're not good for you. It takes a lot of force for them to get through. The 2.5 hard drives like this, which have components that are spread out, they have much less problems with heat, as well as the components themselves are much better. They're much more sensibly kind. They're a lot more gentle on your souls, on your consciousness. You have souls around you guys that you have to treat well. Souls have to power this. And they can't get, it's not they can't get through metal, they can't get through metal, it's just that it's extremely wasteful upon them. That's why some of you, that's why whenever you have metal-clad power supplies, metal-clad phones, they eventually, the batteries drain or discharge themselves completely, also as well as you're just so pissed off while using them. It's very hard to stay focused. It's very stressful. So when you remove those VR chips, those heat spreaders, each of these operates at a high oscillation frequency, and by removing them, and by removing these heat spreaders as well, you actually lower their power consumption and you reduce the amount of heat that they produce. There's less total heat coming out. And I felt this. Now, I bought these super beautiful, not these RAM chips, but these other ones that have these big ass like heat spreaders on them. I'm like, they're actually getting quite warm. I'm like, what the fuck? These are really warm. And I'm noticing, I can feel the draw that it's taking to access through this. And I get this hunch that that I'm supposed to take these off. And so I did, over these very expensive $100, $200 RAM chips. I had 4 of them. I had, what was it? 64, 128 gigabytes. So I took them off, and then when I put my hand back on them, I'm like, this thing's actually producing less heat, and it feels a lot better to run to my consciousness, to my angel, to my teams, because I'm tuned into her. I'm like, what the fuck? I'm like, same thing, I did it with the VR heat spread as well. I'm like, there's no heat coming from those anymore. They're remaining cool. That's why you have a lot of motherboards which don't need them. They don't need them to run. And a lot of you, if you would remove them, especially on your more expensive gaming motherboards, quote-unquote gaming, you'll find that you'll start stressing yourself out less. You won't start stressing out as much. It's a lot more gentle for you. There's a demand which suddenly goes down, which diminishes, which increases tremendously. And so all of this metal, you don't want any of this. Any gaming motherboard, any gaming PC, this is extremely wasteful. This plate, it does almost nothing except block all of the hardware that's inside. There's a ton of chips which they need to access. So I'm going to do this now. And probably if this would have been done at the beginning, this board would never have failed. Same thing with graphics cards, guys. You don't want graphics cards with these giant ass metal plates. And if you get them with these giant ass metal plates, you're going to have failures. And once you remove them, they run a lot better. See, there was nothing really attached to this besides this LED, besides LEDs. There's no real need for this. It covers up all the LAN chips, basically the networking chips, the networking side, and all these components. Now it's all free. They can all access the components now. They can access, and they can help to power the oscillations and frequencies. They're not necessarily powering them, but they're having to keep them synchronized. That's the big thing. Once you remove the oscillations, they don't have to synchronize that anymore. Anyways, this motherboard is pretty much fried, and that's just because it's basically the demands were too great. And if you'll check out any of the recent hardware failures, the ones that occurred spontaneously, it's on extremely fast chips. Because when you overclock things, they can't keep up with the oscillations and frequencies within the transistors themselves. And so basically, if they lose that even just for a moment on something that's really high speed or high powered, it can fuse or close open your chips, and that's when you get a soft hardware failure. It's a silent hardware failure. It just powers down. It just doesn't work anymore. So whenever you can, do do everything possible to take these heat spreaders off. Use heat. If you're doing it for RAM, you want to use heat first. That helps to soften up the adhesive. Makes it a lot easier to peel off, a lot safer. You want to get RAM, which allows you to basically, which is basically like this. That's all you need. It produces less heat. You don't need the heat spreader. Not even on the DDR3 RAM did you need the heat spreaders at all. Unless you're using integrated graphics, you don't need fast RAM at all, ever. If you're using a dedicated RAM, you don't need it. Even if you're not using dedicated RAM, you really don't need fast RAM. You want to downclock your components as much as possible. And so, I've used this card for a while. I think it's an X, it's a 570. It's a 470, isn't it? No, it's a 570. It's a 570. But this giant ass metal heat plate on the back is extremely not needed. It's very damaging. It's very wasteful. This produces more heat, as well as if you get a lot of plating that's on this side as well, anywhere you have that's covering up an IC chip, which requires an oscillation frequency, anything over 10 kilohertz, anything that's over a hertz, it requires their access. A soul, it's a human soul which has to come in and touch it. They have to interact with that. And these chips, they sit like this, right, on the motherboard. And they have to somehow access both the front and back of these components through all of this. And it's just like, and a lot of you are not tuned into that, not really sensing into like what's actually going on. And so you're just carrying about with your lives and like not realizing the tremendous cost that you're putting upon them and yourselves, because they take both energy from them and you. And so whenever you're buying motherboards, when you're buying anything, even if you're a hardcore VTuber gamer, you don't want to get fast motherboards like this. Do not get the X7 570. Do not get the B87, whatever it is. You don't want to get the slow. You don't want to get the fastest boards. You want to get the slowest ones possible, because they're more sensibly timed. You will almost never personally exceed the bus rate capacity of this slot. You don't need the faster chips. You don't need the faster south bridge, which always stays clocked. These things have an immense heat problem, especially when you don't use the fans. And the other ones don't do that because they are more sensibly clocked. They're not clocked as fast. That's why acrylic and glass case power computer cases are so desirable, because they do run better, they feel better to your consciousness. Do not get computer cases which are completely closed off or closed in metal, because it will hurt you. It will hurt your consciousness. It will hurt your teams, your angels, your guides, whatever you want to call them. So basically, what my computer, and you guys have seen part of it, I've made an upload about it, it's very stripped down. I've taken off most of the metal. I took all the internal brackets out. That was from my, what was it, the 570, 5700, whatever it is. It's a very big card. I took out the metal heat brackets, and the card ran better. It allowed it to, the power consumption went noticeably down. I lost about 10 or 5 watts. It was 10 watts after I did the ceramic upgrade. I basically took out all of the capacitors and replaced them with ceramics, more modern ceramics. But yeah, that's why some of your components and stuff fails, guys. Hope it helps.